Time to be liberated from the chaos of working in your business. Scott Beebe, the host, the head coach, the founder of the Business on Purpose platform, where we get to liberate you every day from that chaos. Powerful question from a small business owner in our group coaching group. Every Thursday we have the Business on Purpose group coaching, where we're liberating a group of small business owners from chaos. This particular business owner is in the construction industry, more so on the interior construction of what they do. And powerful question, and one that we get a lot as well, and that is around compensation. And the question went something like this: help, I think I'm paying my people too much because it's killing me. This particular business owner actually has a line of credit out to help float payroll, which we're not fans of, and I'll tell you why here in just a minute. But I think I'm paying them too much. How do I compensate? It's not only how do I tell them that I'm paying them too much, but how do I compensate with some level of purpose? Again, if you need clarity overall, we always start with vision. Go to mybusinessonpurpose.com/vision, and you'll have access to the full-scale vision tutorial and template where you can draw out your own vision to help you have these conversations, because the first place you have to start is with your vision, your mission, and your values. Once you've got that in place, there are a couple of key numbers that we need to know before we understand how to compensate. Now, before we get to the numbers, let me give you a couple of principles. We usually compensate based on emotion. How do I feel? We compensate based on what they demand because of what they need. They might say phrases like, well, how am I supposed to pay for my kids to go to school? I'll be honest with you, business owner, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to compensate well based on the work that's provided in the production of the business that you are that you're living in and that you're serving customers with. And so you need to be compensating on something different than usually what people are asking you to compensate them on. The first thing, the role. We've got to understand what the role is. So that role has to be clearly defined before we can ever start to talk about compensation. Second is once that role's in place, in larger context of the entire organization, then we allow the business to speak to us. The business begins to tell us what we compensate, not other people, because human beings are emotional beings. And a lot of times what they're going to want to do, and what we all will want to do, is overcompensate ourselves for the level of performance that we bring to the table. There are exceptions, but there are also a lot of situations where that is the case. And so we want to compensate based on role. We want to compensate based on what the business tells us to do. And then we like to compensate on a ratio that's a 1-to-3 or 1-to-4. In other words, in what that person either directly produces or indirectly allows other people to produce, there needs to be a 1-to-4 ratio. So if you pay $1 to compensate a team member, they need to either directly produce $4, not of total revenue, but of real revenue. So if you're in a business with high cost of goods, let's say you're in a construction business and you've got 70% cost of goods, you don't want to pay a 1-to-4 ratio based on the cost of goods, because that's just a holding account. So if you sell a job for $10,000, but $7,000 of that goes to materials and labor to actually subcontract a crew out, really they sold a $3,000 job, not a $10,000 job. And so you want to compensate them based on the $3,000, not the $10,000. And in compensating them on that, we want to see a 1-to-4 ratio. So if they bring in $3,000, then, or $4,000, let's say they bring in $4,000 for round numbers, then you can maybe comfortably compensate them about $1,000. Now you got to look at some other key numbers. What is your profit percentage that you've laid aside? If you've not seen it, we've talked about Profit First, Mike McAllowitz. What's your owner's compensation? What's your overhead or your operating expense? And what's your tax liability? Once you know those numbers, now you can more accurately begin to compensate with purpose and not with emotion. And guys, that's really the takeaway, is we've got to start compensating with purpose and not emotion, because it's actually more humane when we do it. Because when the tough times come, and they will, and they have, you want to be able to hang on to your team, and you want to be able to serve them through the tough times. You're not going to be able to serve them well if you're overpaying them now. You're not going to have a choice but to let them go. So let's stop compensating based on emotion. Let's stop compensating based on human demand. And let's begin to compensate based on principle, thought, purpose, the role, a ratio, and what that role legitimately brings into the business in terms of production. I know it's tough, but it's worth it, guys. Put in the hard work. Head on over to mybusinessonpurpose.com/vision. If you provide the sweat, we'll provide the tools, and you'll get clarity on your business. I'll see you next time right here on the Business on Purpose podcast.